Hey everyone! Wow, that is really blurry. I have to use a different camera because, yeah, I can't get somewhere where there's Wi-Fi and the hotspot on my phone is it's very unreliable. So anyway, uh, new Power Ranger episode, dang, what was the name of this one? Full Exposure. I remembered this one, like, not being very popular among fans, and usually I would skip it when I watched it. I didn't really care for it as a kid either, so it wasn't exactly fresh in my mind. I knew, like, the basic, like, gist of the episode, and I know that, like, just from the premise, there's a major plot hole in it, but I'll talk about that at the end. So anyway, episode begins with this photographer, Mitch, is snapping some photos of the Rangers while they're in a battle with some mutant. He takes the photos to his boss at some paper. The boss is pretty clearly supposed to be like a J. Jonah Jameson type, although he's not really snarky or funny or interesting in any way. Anyway, he's looking at the pictures that Mitch gave him, and he's like, "Yep, these are fine, but these aren't what I want. What I want are pictures of the Rangers without their helmets. We need to see the people. We need to see their identities." And so Mitch is like, "Oh, all right then, I'll try." And then the boss is like, "You better, or you're fired." And so then later at the clock tower, we see Katie's vacuuming. Then she lifts the couch Trip is on with one, or well, yeah, with one hand. So yeah, just a little reminder that, oh yeah, she has super strength. Remember that? Trip is reading some magazine or paper or whatever. He's like, "Whoa, can you believe it? This lady raised a baby Bigfoot." And let's see, Wes comes in and scoffs at the magazine, saying, "It's all nonsense. They just make all this stuff up." And I paused it, and I was able to see what all the articles on the front cover were. They were very weird. Let's see, the magazine, The Inquisitor, is kind of a weekly world news type of thing. And let's see, the articles are, let's see, "Stinging insults, so ugly the tide wouldn't take her out. Four aliens from space. Oh, jeez. For some reason, my notes got all messed up here. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Four aliens from space stoned to death by French in 840 AD, and best friends frozen solid since 1962, reunited with loved ones. So these are all pretty crazy titles, but actually, for Power Rangers, they're not that weird, except for maybe the "so ugly the tide wouldn't take her out." And they have a picture of someone. I was like, I can't tell who that's supposed to be, but it looks like a real person. I'm hoping it wasn't like a disgruntled, like, ex person working on the show there. Anyway, oh yeah, and one of the weird things is the alien article. I noticed it did at least say aliens, like, stoned by. Oh yeah, this is weird. Stoned to death. So they can write death, but they can't actually say it in Power Rangers. That's kind of odd. Of course, it is just on a little piece of paper that is on screen for a few seconds, so maybe that was a way to sneak it past. Anyway, the alien thing being set in 480 AD and also stoned to death by the French is pretty silly. So even in a world where aliens are a factual thing that everyone knows exists, that's, I don't know, that's still a funny title. Anyway, oh yeah, Mitch, the photographer from earlier, goes to Nick of Time Odd Jobs to hire someone to carry his equipment. Katie agrees to take the job, and later Mitch tells her about his boss's assignment to expose the true identities of the Power Rangers, and Katie is stunned by this. She doesn't know how to react. And then Mitch gets a call from his boss about a mutant attack. Katie hears her morpher goes off, she tries to cover it up, and so then Mitch and Katie get to the site, and he's snapping pictures away at the Rangers. Katie doesn't know what to do. She's standing there, and she's like, I should really join the Rangers, but I can't leave this guy, or else he might get suspicious. And so anyway, she takes her chance. She slips away, joins the Rangers. They defeat the monster, or well, the monster retreats and runs away. And Wes is about to power down, but then Katie's like, "Wait, that photographer guy is over there in the bushes. He's watching us. Okay, just walk away casually." So then they walk away. Katie unmorphs and she goes behind the van. that Mitch drove there in, and she's like, "Oh, hey, I went to get the film, but the door wouldn't open," and he's like, "It's open." I feel silly. Okay. So anyway, this he doesn't find this too weird. Anyway, he tells her that he couldn't get the pictures; they never demorph. And then let's see, they go to a dark room where he's developing his pictures, and Katie sees all these pictures of animals, and he's like, "Yeah, if I had my way, that's the type of picture I'd take all the time, but those aren't the type of pictures the Inquisitor wants." And then Katie tells him, let's see, oh yeah, Katie talks to him about photographing the Rangers for identities, and do you really think that's a right thing to do? And he's like, I don't want to think about it right now. And then the mutant attacks. Katie leaves Mitch to join the Rangers again. Oh, and at this point, I noticed the monster is pretty strong. The Rangers get their Vortex Blaster. They blast this huge laser beam at him. He catches it in this laser thing in his mouth, face, whatever, and throws it back. So he's a pretty strong mutant, and I wondered, is he from the X-Vault? They never say, so it's an interesting thing to speculate on. So anyway, oh yeah, when he deflects the Vortex Blaster blast back at the Rangers, they're just, pooh, big explosion, they demorph, and then Mitch comes in and he's like, oh cool, they're demorphed, I can take pictures. So then the Rangers are laying in the rubble without their suits, they're just in their civilian outfits, he gets all the pictures, and Katie's like, no, please, Mitch, you can't, and then he runs away, and then, let's see, Mitch goes, let's see, oh yeah, it shows Mitch, like, developing the pictures later, and he, like, sees the images of the Rangers all wounded, he sees Katie asking him not to do this, and he feels conflicted, but he goes ahead, he's about to turn in the pictures, Katie catches up with him, and she's trying to talk him out of it, but he doesn't get out of it, and he submits the pictures, however the boss isn't there. But then the mutant shows up again. Oh yeah, the mutant's name is Artillatron. He blasts the side of the building just as Mitch is in an elevator and he gets stuck. He's calling for help, Katie comes in, and she's about to get him out, but then the elevator falls, she grabs the rope with her super strength and pulls it up again, and that is really cool. And she's able to freeze it so he can get out, and then she goes down to make sure he's okay, and he's like, wow, you saved me, even after what I did. And then she's all like, that's the difference between you and me. You only think of yourself. So then she leaves, joins the Rangers, and they finally defeat Artillatron, but then he grows, and then we get the standard Megazord thing, and this is a longer Megazord sequence, I noticed. Let's see, the Time Jets come in, they all do their thing, form the Megazord, Mode Blue, because that's not a waste of time at all, and then Mode Red, because we should have been doing that from the beginning. They take out Artillatron, put him back in cryostasis, off-screen, and so yeah, that's that. Then at the clock tower, the Rangers are preparing to leave. They're packing up their stuff. Then Mitch comes in, and he's like, what's going on? Why are you leaving? And they're like, well, once that paper comes out, our identities are exposed. And then Lucas comes in, guys, look, and he's holding up the new Inquisitor. Our pictures aren't in it. And then they're all like, oh, well, okay. And then Mitch tells Katie, yeah, I took the pictures back. Here they are. And he gives the pictures to Katie. And then he also tells Katie that he quit his job and he plans to find a new one where he can take the kind of photos he wants to take. So, if anybody out there knows Time Force, the plot up till now, the episodes, anything that's happened, the major plot hole in this is that the Rangers don't really have secret identities, and all the arguments for keeping their identities secret in here are things they've already broken. Like, they're well past that. So, this whole episode is just a giant plot hole. And the weird thing is, like last episode, it's not good. Although, last episode, like, the problem was that, like, it just didn't really feel like that good of an episode, but it was still well made. This one is a very well made episode that would work perfectly fine in any season where the Rangers actually had secret identities. However, in Time Force, they don't. Or at least not, like, to the point where you can build a whole episode around, like exposing their identities being a bad thing. Now, towards the end of the episode, when they're all packing up to leave, Trip talks to Jen. He's like, "Do we really have to leave? I like it here." And Jen says something about, if our identities are revealed, everyone knows who we are, and that includes Ransik. Which just made me think, whoever wrote this, like, had no idea what was going on. I think this must have been, like, a very early script that never got fixed or something. It reminds me of in Lightspeed, in the Limelight with Dana. That whole episode, she was just completely out of character. A lot of the characters were out of character in that episode. And I don't know, it just doesn't work in that series, especially not that late in the season. Like, that was the type of thing that would work better, like, really early on. This, though, this wouldn't work anywhere in Time Force. This kind of plot only works in a bunch of other seasons where it would have made sense for them to have secret identities. But the problem is, when Jen says, like, people will know who we are, that includes Ransik. Ransik already knows who you guys are. He especially knows you, Jen. He killed your fiancé. You went by yourself to try and kill him yourself. Remember that, Jen? When you went and tried to, like, break your own rules to go and, like, take your vengeance on Ransik? And you were unmorphed for a bit of it, so he knows who you are. So him... And the other things... Let's see... when Mitch takes the pictures of the Rangers, they're not even what his boss wanted. So even if the boss had seen those pictures... Like, if I was the boss, I would have thrown them in his face and said, "These don't prove anything." It's just people lying in rubble. That happens all the time. The whole last season of Power Rangers was all about a team of Rangers built to rescue people from the constant monster attacks. Or, well, from a new threat that happened to cause monster attacks, but there was also a lot of, like, human lives in danger, and they've shown in Time Force that similar thing happens. The monsters blow up buildings, the rubble falls somewhere, sometimes on people. Sometimes there's people in the buildings that need to be rescued. In this one, Mitch had to be rescued from the building. So, people, like, wounded, covered in dust, lying on the ground after a monster went through, that doesn't indicate anything. What proves that they're Rangers? When at the beginning, the boss said, we need pictures of the Rangers without their helmets. So implying the suit is there, but not the helmet. So you can see the face and connect it with the suit, and, yeah, determine that that's one of the Rangers. Which makes me wonder, like, the Inquisitor prints nonsense stories. Like, in the like, world of Power Rangers, the premises in the magazine, paper, whatever, they don't sound that weird. Like, they're weird, definitely, but is it really any weirder than things that have actually happened in Power Rangers? Like, the woman raises a baby Bigfoot. Well, we have at least two Bigfoots in Power Rangers. We have Norg, well, he's a Yeti, so, but he says his cousin is a Bigfoot. And then we have another Bigfoot, Bluefur in Megaforce, who is a, like, mutated Bigfoot. My assumption was that he was, like, a natural animal Bigfoot who was mutated by pollution, and that's his origin, whatever. So anyway, yeah, Power Rangers has ridiculous stuff. Last season, mermaids exist. So, why didn't the Inquisitor magazine just get actors? Like, it's not hard to replicate Power Ranger outfits. They've done that before in the series. In fact, earlier in Time Force, there's a bunch of little kids playing with Time Force costumes. So just get an adult-sized one, sculpt a helmet, have them hold the helmet in, like, an action pose or something, dress somebody up like a monster. Why didn't they just do that? Why was the boss obsessed with getting, like, actual pictures of the actual Rangers when everything else in the magazine was just nonsense? And so anyway, the other thing about having secret identities, why is it even necessary when the Rangers, for the most part, don't even have identities? They're from the future. They're not supposed to be in the past. And if like, the argument is that they're worried that they might alter the future. Well, let me look at my notes. I did. Altering the future is, like, the only, like, argument they have against someone exposing their identities, and, they never bring it up in this episode. Altering the future is never brought up, which is really weird because Katie has actively altered the future before, or, well, she's altered the present. She went back in time because of magic or something. She changed the life of this one guy, went back to 2001, and saw that she altered, because of what she did in the past, the present is now altered, and this guy, like, got married, and his life went a different direction than it had previously. And there was another episode where she was worried about altering the future because what if something happens to her family if they alter where they are at this point in 2001? What about in the future in 3000? What's going to happen to her family? In this episode, she never brings that up. Which again makes me wonder, like, if this wasn't an episode written for, like, some other season. Like, was this written for In Space? Or Turbo, where they actually did have secret identities? And that's the other weird thing, the whole secret identity thing, because it hasn't really been that strong of a point since the Zordon era ended. In Lost Galaxy, yeah, the Rangers had kinda secret identities. It's more just nobody really asked. Was there an episode where someone took a picture of one of the Rangers, like, demorphing or something? I don't remember. Anyway, and in Lightspeed, they didn't have secret identities at all. And in Time Force, here's the thing, Wes's identity is already known to the public. And people know where Wes lives. There's the episode where his visor is damaged, his father recognizes him, and then later the father's talking with some of his company guys, and one of the guys says, "Sir, your son is a ranger, blah 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 blah." And, okay, so that shows that it's not just Mr. Collins who knows it, it's other people. And presumably, like, the general public knows Wes is the Red Ranger, and if they know that Wes is the Red Ranger, then it doesn't, like, logically they should assume that the people he hangs around with all the time are probably in some way connected to the Rangers. And so, anyway, oh, and also Eric's not in the episode because why would he? He doesn't have a secret identity at all either. Like, he doesn't even ever keep it secret. Like, the other Rangers, like, at the beginning, they try to keep a slightly low profile. Wes was found out by his father, and that's how it got out that he was the Red Ranger. Eric, though, never hid the fact that he was a Ranger. But anyway, despite all of that, and all the problems and the big plot holes, this is an okay episode. The biggest problem is it's part of Time Force, and it shouldn't be part of Time Force. The episode is the weakest of the season, and it's only because this episode doesn't work with anything in the rest of the season. And one of the other things that I was thinking about while watching this was, usually an episode that has such a sloppy oversight like this, and really doesn't fit the rest of the season, is because it's a filler episode. It's made just to kill time for, like, a bigger event later. It's made to save on the budget so the budget can go to a bigger episode. And there are some bigger episodes coming, but the weird thing is that this episode is kind of a big episode. There's a lot of unique locations, there's a ton of extras, there's a ton of American shot scenes. The only part where it starts to feel like padded out filler is the Megazord fight. Partially because the Megazord takes forever to form. They go through both Mode Blue and the Red Mode. I'm surprised they didn't have the Shadow Winger come through. Although I'm guessing that, or Time Shadow, whatever. I'm guessing they didn't do that because it wasn't in the Japanese version, maybe? I don't remember. I don't remember this episode from the Japanese version, what the plot of it was. I think it was similar to this, but I don't remember for sure. I'll have to rewatch it sometime. So anyway, and also, like, the sets. There's the office set where Mitch goes to turn in the papers. There's the elevator thing. There's, like, hallways that they're in, and, like, it's not anything major or amazing or anything, but it is different from the norm that's usually in Power Rangers. Usually Time Force sticks to the similar kinds of locations. This one, there's a lot of different locations. And I'm wondering, why did they bother when the plot made so little sense? I don't know. I really wish the budget from this episode could have been scrapped and it could have gone to Time for Lightspeed, or maybe we could have had a 3-part movie Madness, or we could have done some other kind of big event, or hey, how about the canceled Time Force movie, or the extra episodes that were going to be made before 9/11 happened and yeah, screwed all the scheduling up. Anyway, this wasn't a very good Time Force episode. However, in like taken on its own for its own merits, it's fine, which is really weird for Power Rangers. Like especially now, Dino Fury's out. I've been watching the new season of Dino Fury, and it's not very good. It's okay. So don't get ticked off at me or anything. I think it's fine. I don't think it's anywhere near as amazing as some people are making out to be, but it's fine. But it's got so many little issues. Like every episode feels like the last one. So, yeah, that's all for this one. See ya.